Let's go back to Carlton before we get into the footy action. What is going on? You've got some mail on who is starting to firm up as the potential coach of the Blues.
I do, Ed, and good evening, everyone. What I believe, and we'll talk to Ross in a minute about what exactly went on last week, but before we do that, Ed, what is clear now is that Brad Scott holds the key to the Carlton coaching position, in my view. Brad Scott has not been interviewed formally for the Carlton coaching job, but I understand is strongly considering throwing his hat into the ring. We revealed last week on this show that he had been contacted by Brad Lloyd, the head of football at the Carlton Football Club, to throw himself into that process. And as we sit here tonight, Ed, my belief is that Brad Scott is weighing up whether to hold on and throw his hat in completely into the AFL ring for the football operations job to replace Steve Hocking, a job that the AFL still haven't decided exactly how that's going to be split, whether it's going to be diluted, etc., dragging their feet there, in my view. I think the AFL... I don't think they've encouraged Brad Scott to go for the Carlton job, not by any means, because they're interested in Brad Scott. But I don't think Gillon McLachlan would be not understanding if Brad were to do that. I
agree with you. My information is exactly that. It's not all duck or no dinner with this, that the AFL are ready to go with a plan B, which they think is as palatable as plan A, which is Brad Scott. But they also know that if he does want to coach, then Carlton is probably the place he's going to go to.
So, Ed, you're saying it's Brad Scott's job at the AFL if he wants it?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't so sure about that. I wasn't so sure why it's taken so long. If Brad was the man that they needed to,
because I think he's been talking to a lot of clubs about coaching again.
Well, yes, except that he didn't go into the Collingwood process for the very reason, and he was interested in the Collingwood job, that he didn't feel he could commit to that process if the AFL job came up. We're not going to know who Steve Hocking's replacement is, bizarrely, until just before the grand final. I think Carlton are keen on Brad Scott, and I think look, I'm a Brad Scott fan. I think he'd be great for the Carlton Football Club.
Yeah, I think second time around, he did a wonderful job at North Melbourne. He would have learned a lot, and I think he'll be better at it the second time around. And he did reach 2 prelims. OK,
Ross, what happened between here on last Wednesday and lunchtime when Caro broke the story that you'd had enough of the palaver that was going on there?
Well, it feels like a lifetime ago. A week is a long time in footy, so I feel settled. It does. It feels like it was a year ago.
You feel more relaxed?
I feel settled. Yeah. I certainly have no regrets on anything. It was interesting to be back in the arena, in a sense, for a brief period.
What tipped at that?
Oh, look, it's sort of a moot point. It's because no one, even I haven't got both sides of this fence fully. The only one that has everything is Luke Sayers, because he has conversations with me, his position and his board's position. So,
do you feel let down by Luke Sayers?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have no regrets. No, not whatsoever. Like, I knew when I put my hand up what would be coming over the fence, and there's a lot of noise. Everyone's got an opinion. I'm not going to... All the media commentators and, you know, my ego was stroked. I didn't want to go through a process. None of that's completely accurate, but I'll take what I know with me and just leave it at that.
But I would have thought, though, it's a bit like asking Russell Crowe to turn up and do an audition amongst other people. You know what Russell Crowe's going to bring to a film. Everyone knows what you were bringing. Were you interviewed and almost seduced into saying, right, we want you to be the Carlton coach, only then to find out that there was going to be a process and other people that you had to compete against?
I made no assumptions. There was no promises. No promises. I asked Luke previously, I think the day before, for clarity on the subcommittee and the process, and then I woke up, as I said to Luke, I reflected on all the conversations and all of them, and then what was happening in the media, and I said I'm out, which took Luke by a bit of surprise, but that's fine. I said, mate, no regrets. I wish you all the best, and the Carlton Football Club.
I think Luke's got a lot to learn in how you run a football club. And I'm not just talking about you, Ross. The treatment of some people as the changes happen has been quite extraordinary. In a bizarre twist, we're told this weekend that there have been people at Carlton who've approached people at Collingwood about their coaching process, which we were quite complimentary of last week, in fact, when Craig McRae got the job. It actually was a process. A lot of candidates were interviewed, and I'm told that Paul Licuria, the football boss, might have even put it to Graham Wright that some of the IP or some of the intellectual property, some of the way Collingwood handled itself might be shared with Carlton. And
What, Collingwood are going to help Carlton? Just things have changed in the last 6 months, haven't they?
I'm not sure exactly how it went down, but anyway, I don't think...
Like a legal
And in the
I
article,
believe.
North Melbourne, I think you've got to back your own capabilities and understanding.
I don't think anything's
So
come
on that then,
Carlton's way.
is that what Greg Williams is like? Who is responsible, the head person? And Ross may know this better than any of us. But say, why ask that? Isn't that what Greg Williams, David Parker, or is it someone else, Ross, who's in control of that?
Well, I would think your footy operations people, to be honest, should are responsible for driving that process. Your football director and president are supportive, and I don't know. I think you've got a board member that's a recruiter, but those people probably ran the process last time. So,
Don't you-
with
board member
respect,
that's
they're
a
probably
recruiter
looking for
is-
improvement.
I think there should be a process into processing the people who do the process to come up with a process to get the job done.
Can you tell us
It's getting
what is
ridiculous.
it,
Is my
Jed?
point
Tell
of
us
being
what is a
facetious.
process? Be honest, in short terms, what is a process then? Talk about what one club's process is compared to another club's.
Well, they're all going to be
The
different.
Collingwood Football Club appointed a subcommittee, one of whom came from outside but was a former player in Luke Ball. It was headed by Graham Wright, who ran it, in my understanding, and a lot of candidates were interviewed. After, I think up to 20 people might have been sounded out. They got down
and I
to
think a couple said no, they were going to do other things, so the list changed.
You get down to a short list of 3 or 4, and out of that short list, they identified Craig McRae.
To answer your question,
It's not that hard though.
Lloydie, to answer your question, you know what you've got to do? You've got to know what your club, where it's
Yes,
at,
that's right.
and what you need to improve your club. So if you think you can just get over the line by getting a super coach or somebody who knows what they're doing, you go get them. If you think you're building a list, you go and find somebody who can teach young kids and bring it together. If you think you've got to go from a coach who was really hard on them to somebody who's going to give them a cuddle, that's what you've got to look for. It's as simple as that.
One thing I
Let's
will
move on,
say
mate.
is that the presence of Greg Williams at that club now full-time is quite bizarre, coming out of nowhere.